Hey, everybody. And welcome back. All right. Hey, guys, this is the Season 3, Episode 1 of the SIS in layman's terms. I'm broadcasting from the main bridge here in beautiful eastern Tennessee at the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And so today we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to be doing SIS in layman's terms live. And this is mainly due to the fact that there's a lot of people that are, I even had a conversation with the sales rep that called me even today and was saying, hey, Dave, I've been watching the videos, but there's a lot of stuff in here that we're just not quite sure what's going on. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to make a opportunity here to dial in. So what I've done is the board that I use, this is a Rodecaster podcast board, and it's got all sorts of inputs and outputs and meters and everything else going on. I'm a bit of a techno geek, for lack of a better description. So I tend to enjoy, making some of this technology work. And this is kind of funny because when I first started college back in the 90s, I actually went into college to be a radio broadcaster. And then I started seeing that how much radio broadcasters didn't make at that time. And this is long before the consolidators started moving everybody. Radio stations today are not the radio stations of back in the 90s where you have one local DJ that's working the midnight shift. The stations we have today is one guy in Toledo, Ohio, and he's broadcasting to 800 to 1,000 radio stations across the country all at the same time. So it's just a repeater from one dude, and it may not even be a dude. It might just be a person just sitting behind a microphone that does a bunch of pre-recorded ads, and then they just string them together, and then they place music in them, and then they load it into the computer. So it is a very computerized world today, and it's taken over, and it seems like it's live. It seems like people are out there ready to take the calls and doing all that stuff. But here at Worth, we're still live. We just got back from a trip this last week. So if you called in and got my partner, Joe Castro, my wife and I decided to take a little vacation and disappeared for a little while. And we've been able to really come up with some new ideas and some stuff coming up that we'll talk about later. But for right now, let's talk about the live cast. Now, there's a couple ways we can do this. You can either put it in the chat box and say, hey, Dave, I got this question. How does this work with the program? Or if you are feeling adventuresome, I've got a number here, area code 865-310-4880, and that is going to be my cell phone. And if you want to jump on the line, we'll do some live technical support here as well. So, all right, let's dive in. So one of the things that somebody requested was that boy, some professional I am knocking the microphone around. Sorry about that. So I had a sales rep today was asking me the question. Said, Dave, can you just kind of start from the beginning? What is SIS? How does it work? And really kind of not necessarily dive deep into it, but hit the service stuff of what we're talking about, what SIS is and does. So I'm going to transition my page over here. Okay, so this is the SIS screen that you're all very familiar with. And I'm going to log out of my test account here. And if you're setting up SIS for the very first time, this is where you're going to go, sislogon.com. Now, the only pieces of information you're going to need is pretty much what's on your business card. And you're going to need your Worth account number. So we're going to click register down here at the bottom, and we're going to fill in the blanks. We can put in Joe Newbert Collision, put in your account number, address, et cetera, et cetera. And when you get all that done, you're going to put it says manager details, but it could really be anybody in the shop, first name, last name, and their email. Email is going to be your username. and then you click save. That's pretty much it. And then when you get done, you're going to get an email, and that email is going to have your password. Now, the email, since it's coming from Canada, that's where our server is. Since it's coming from Canada, sometimes a lot of email programs will think it's spam because it's coming from an international source. And if it's coming from an international source, it will sometimes flag it as a spam. So always check your spam folder. If you're still having trouble getting into the SIS and you still didn't get your email, just call the tech line. Joe or I can get into the administrator screen, and we can pull that up for you as well, and we can change the password for you. Make it a little bit easier to get into it. All right, cool. So once you get in here, email address, password, log in. And then you're going to come right to the main screen. Now, there's still a little bit of housekeeping we need to do here before we can start using the program. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to master data, and we're going to add some technicians. Now, I've got some technicians in here already. We have 1, 2, and 3, plus some of these other numbers. I always use Scott, which is technician 400. So just add, all you have to do is click that plus mark here. And so number 4 is Denny McLeod. Sorry I had to reach there. Keyboard is off to my right. Technician 4 is successfully added. It's on page 2. There he is, Denny McLeod. So this is, you just do this for all your technicians. Second piece of kind of housekeeping is you're going to click on Worth. Click on your name up here. And if I had, since this is Worth admin, my first name is Worth. But if this was Denny McLeod or whoever, then it would be just click on your first name up here in the upper right hand corner. Then from there, you're going to go to My Users. Now, in this body shop, we want to set up all of the estimators, especially if you're using the CCC integration. And we'll talk about all of that here in just a second. But if you're using the CCC integration, you'll need to make sure that you put all of your estimators in there exactly as they are in CCC. Because, I'm going to go back to the main screen. Whenever you have the CCC integration and we receive the file from CCC, one of the things the program checks is to see who the estimator is. So, for example, on this RO 8271, Chris and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm sorry, Chris. Chris Obo. I'm not even. I know I said it wrong, so I apologize, Chris. So Chris is the estimator on this, and as long as Chris's name is showing up in the user list under My Users, then it's going to automatically connect that RO to that estimator. And by doing that, now the bug guy's outside, so Tanya, my ever faithful doorbell, is letting me know that he's out there. So I apologize. Gotta love dogs. If you haven't guessed, I do work from home. This is my home office that I've been using for like 11 years now. So Tanya, for the most part, sits there and is a good dog, and she keeps her yap shut. I don't have people in the driveway for most of the time. But anyway, Chris is not in the list, so the reason he's not going to be showing up is because he is not his name won't be attached there because he's not in there. So if you have an estimator and you're wanting to add, make sure that you're adding the estimator as, if he goes by Chris, which that's how it is in CCC, he might be in there as Christopher, or C or, for whatever the reason, whatever he goes by, make sure that it matches what's in CCC. So like Matthew Carr, for example, I know that's correct. He goes by Matthew, and there's Matthew Carr's his last name. It'll make sure that, I keep saying I got to work on my own text here. When I do these videos, if you've watched season 2, the videos themselves are, they take a while to make, because the video, I'm not happy with all of the quality. So that's usually when it takes a couple of 3 hours to shoot a video, and it only turns out to be like a 5-10 minute video. Some of those videos are, I'm not happy with, but this live thing, hey, you only get one shot at it. So we're going live, and we're going to do the best we can with what we got. All right, no questions yet. Not even sure how many people are watching, but that's okay. All right, so we've already set up all of our technicians in the shop. We've already set up all of our users. These are the estimators. Now, if you're not using the CCC integration, then this stuff here is really just not necessary. You don't have to do it. If you want to, great. If you don't, there's a lot of shops that only have one email address, so they can only really have one user. So in that situation, then we can only do it once. That's okay. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to page 7 here, because I don't want to mess up anything that they're working on. Let's keep going back. I won't go back to May. All right, so in here we have RO number 8184. Matthew Carr is the estimator, but I want to change it to me. And the reason is that because I'm Boy, I haven't cleaned out my email forever, because I don't really use this email. If you guys want to send me email, go for it. It's worth SIS 11. Probably get deleted, though. All I'm doing is I'm just cleaning this out. Whenever I sign up for something, I'll usually give this email, and I really don't care. All right, cool. So everything in here is empty. We're going to go back over here, 8184. And we're going to add a part. In this situation, what I did was I added a manual part, typed in the part number, and as soon as it found it, it put it up there in the list. Now I'm going to say we use 12 of these. Changes the price, $36.48. It's going to say up here at the top that the entered quantity is more than the quantity in inventory, and that's fine, because you don't have to keep track of inventory to make this program work. It's just one of those features that if you are keeping track of inventory, this might be one of those things is like, okay, our inventory got off on this item, if you're keeping track of everything. Most shops don't. They just don't keep track of inventory, and because they don't keep track of inventory, this program is designed to be as simple or as complex as you want to make it. And that's what this program is. So if that's all we have for this job, we have 12 fasteners we put on this. We have a total of $36.48. At this point, I can do one of two things. Either A, I can click the checkbox and click Transmit to CCC, which is this little logo up here. Since it is the CCCRO, I could also wait until 4:30, and then SIS is going to say, hey, we've got items on this RO that have not been printed or transmitted yet. We're going to automatically push it to CCC. You could do that too. Or the third option, and if you're not using CCC, this is what you would do, is you'd come up here to the little print invoice icon. Standard is what you normally want, but you also have the service and the extended. The only difference between standard and service is that the service invoice charges tax and it gets rid of the worth logo. That's pretty much it. There's not much to that. Most of your collision centers are not going to be charging tax because they use the estimating software, CCC, Mitchell, whatever program they're using. They charge tax at that point when they do the final billing. So you don't want to charge tax on this. So I'm going to choose standard and I'm going to click download. Since this is an all web-based program, it's going to open it up in Adobe PDF. Or Adobe Reader in this situation. And this is what it looks like. I've got 12 of them at $304. It's charging it out at $36.48. While we're here, let's just double check the math. Like I said, I was out of town last week, so $36.48. Exactly what it's supposed to be. All right, cool. At this point, I can print it. Or I can just hit the download here and save it. Now, if you save it, you can go into your CCC or Mitchell, whatever, and attach this PDF as an attachment. So you don't waste the paper. Or if you want the paper as the backup, you've got it. And that, in a nutshell, is what SIS is and does. It creates those receipts for the stuff that historically body shops give away, and they've been giving it away for years. I've been just celebrated 20 years with Worth, and I'm having the exact same discussions today as I did in 2001. The program has not changed that much, except that it's gone web-based and it's got a lot cooler, and the technology's gotten better, and et cetera, et cetera. But the program's purpose has not really changed for the entire length of that time, and probably some more, because there used to be a program called Core, which was Worth's original program. And the Core program did exactly this. It created that receipt for stuff that historically body shops give away. But it's been more so here recently, as we've been in discussions with different integration partners, that the integration is what is key. The integration to send our data from our platform to another platform and create a virtual paper trail. It's not an actual paper trail, but a virtual one. And that virtual paper trail is what has given us the ability to do some really cool stuff and make the process simple, or simpler. I mean, this is pretty darn simple. It's, the scan and print method goes back. Yes, Tanya. World's worst doorbell. All right, cool. Let's go on to some other stuff here. All right, we've already set up our account. We've printed a receipt. She wants to get out there and go see what Tom's doing. Tom the bug guy. Pretty cool cat. All right, so the other things that this program could do, if you're keeping track of it, is that customers in a body shop is kind of cool, but it really isn't all that useful, because in most collision centers, you're going to be interacting with that customer once every 3 to 10 years, maybe longer. I know that my buddy, can't remember his name. Anyway, he's got a body shop down the street. He's a friend of mine. When I was a rep, I actually called on him a few times when he worked for a previous shop. Monty's downtown auto buddy. He's literally the guy that I go to whenever something needs to be done. And I think my wife's car had something needed to be done here just a few weeks ago. It was changing out a headlamp. Technically it's something I probably could have done myself, but I just said, you know what, I'm going to let Monty do it because he's much more of an expert at this than I am. So databasing this kind of information about who my customers are is kind of redundant. Because if you're using this program with CCC, for example, all this information is already there. It's in your CCC. You don't really need it in SIS unless you just really want to. And so to add customers to this, and it's like a lot of things in this program, is that there's a lot of things that it can do, but you don't necessarily have to. So if you want to add customers information here, just hit the circle with the plus mark, give them a customer number, fill in their actual information, and save. I'm not going to actually save it because this is a live account. But in the repair order screen, if I wanted to put in a customer name, there it is. I can put it up there, or I can just type in the first letter of the first name or the first letter of the last name or whatever. And it's going to try populating it for me. As you type it, it gets a little more intuitive. But like I said, it's not necessary unless you really need it. Some shops feel that they do need it, and by all means, knock yourself out. But you don't have to do it because it's creating extra work that you don't necessarily need to do. Okay, cool. Anyway, so we've got this RO. We've got, this is, like I said, this is a CCC RO. This is a CCC customer. And this is information that the CCC program sends to us. It's the VIN numbers, the year, make, and model. It's the color of the car, et cetera, et cetera. These are all data points that are necessary in order to send it back to CCC. If you do not have the CCC integration, then this IP information box is not even displayed. It's not even there. Boy, she really wants to get out there and go see Tom. And my lovely bride to the rescue. All right, cool. All right, so the next thing is insurance company. Now, insurance company... Oh, sorry about that. I've made a career out of talking for a living. But not for this length of time. Usually it's for just a few minutes here, a few minutes there. Doing tech support all this time. I don't know if I ever would have made it as a DJ, to tell you the truth. So the thing is that this screen is really designed to work with markups. Now, let's say, for example, you have a particular markup of across the board of 100%. And your markup with Allstate, for example, is like, all right, you get a 25% discount off of everything that we sell you. I'm just using this as a hypothetical. So you could set this up as an Allstate insurance company with the 75% markup. So whenever we select the insurance company, it's going to change all the pricing to 75% instead of 100. But this also brings other things up. So if you have, let's say, Seam Sealer in the program at let's say a 15% markup initially, and you select Allstate, it will also change that to 75%. So the chemicals could get a little out of whack if you were trying to keep this. So insurance companies, again, is one of those optional fields that the program has, but you don't necessarily have to use it. Excuse me just a second. Sorry. Itchy nose. All right, cool. All right, so if you're interested in wanting to see a little more, if you have some questions about the program itself, the number is the direct cell phone number that if you want to be live on air here is area code 865-310-4880. And I would love to have some interaction here. This is, I feel all this stuff is elementary because I've been doing it for so long. And I might be going too fast on some particular part of the program, or I might be glossing over on something that you really want to know about. And in order to save that call later, the question you have right now could be a question that somebody else has. And I encourage it. Come on, give the number a call. We'll put you on air here. Ask your questions, see what you want to see. And I would love to have that conversation with you. All right. Now, this other box over here is called suppliers. Now, most body shops have somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 6 suppliers when it comes to everything from paint and supplies to the person that brings the Band-Aids or the bandages in the bandage box there in the break room. You can also create I had a shop one time that actually kept track of how much toilet paper they kept in stock. I know that sounds like a silly thing to keep track of, but they would do a Sam's run, and they never wanted to run out. So what they would do is they would get down to the last package and then use the SIS to alert them when it was getting low. And that's kind of leads me back to what else this program can do is that it's also an inventory management program. But I always recommend folks that when they first get the SIS, don't be tempted to immediately jump in head first and try to inventory everything in the shop, because programs like this have about a 3 to 6 month learning curve. You're putting a brand new piece of software into the shop. You're wanting the software to do certain things, including keeping track. You don't want to have too much stock. You don't want to never run out of stock. And that is a fine balance. And so unfortunately what happens a lot of times is that shops will get this program and they say, I want to do inventory. Okay, cool. You want to do inventory? That's the way we'll do inventory. Your standard AB clip assortment takes generally about 6 to 12 hours to count everything in there. And if you're not keeping track of inventory, that entire count can be off in a matter of days. Completely jacked up, because there is that learning curve. You're not always going to get everybody on board. A lot of times, if you have 10 people in a shop, you're going to have 2 that you ask them to do it, and they do it perfectly. But at the other end of the spectrum, you have 2 people that no matter how much you beg or threaten them with bodily harm, they're just not going to do it. And that's just the way it goes. This is it's not really compulsory, but it's also it's one of those things that the program does. I know, like a lot of paint programs, they have the self-mixing. I was down in Miami, and I really was impressed with this one type of paint mixing system. I don't remember which brand it was or how it worked, but it was a no-touch paint mixing system. So all of the base paints and the mixing colors and all that stuff was all plugged in. And so the person would load the paint canister that they were going to use to spray the car into the machine, say how much that they were going to need for that particular job, and load it up. And the machine would bring in all the tints, I don't know that much about paint, so I apologize if I'm totally messing this up. But they would bring in all that stuff into the container that they would need to spray the car with the correct color code. And then, but there was no mixing like the old days of where you need 2 ounces of this, half ounce of that. And, if you're off by a little bit, it'll make the color wrong. So then you end up making more paint than you actually need because you put in a half ounce too much of one tint or another. It is a fine line in mixing paint, and paint is not cheap. Paint is very expensive, just like aftermarket sheet metal is. But the plastic retainers and whatnot, they're not cheap either. There's a lot of fasteners that are $3 and $4 now. And back in the day, a 25-cent fastener, no big deal. It's the car's going to be delivered. It's 25 cents to put that fastener on there. It's not worth chasing the insurance company. Today, that 25-cent fastener could be as much as $5 per fastener. I know there was an Audi I was remembering not too long ago. It was like $200 for just a door, the interior panel clips on it. And this particular shop I was at, they were waiting almost 3 extra weeks to have the fasteners come in from the OE because they couldn't get them aftermarket. So there are times where those fasteners are like gold. These are like gold. Okay, all right. So no. Oh. I think I figured out why I wasn't getting any calls. I'm going to mute the stream for just a second. Let me call this number back. Let's see if we can get them on air. Got his voicemail. So hopefully he'll call me back here in a second. If he does, then we'll get him on. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about a little bit more of the. I'm not fancy. That this would be where I'd have a call screener, somebody actually taking the calls for me and lining them up so that we look efficient. I'm a one-man show. All right, so let's take a look at. So we've already done master data. We've done all of these different pieces there. Let's take a look at inventory management. Now, before I dive too much into this, I want to show you something here in the repair order. This is the main screen, but this is something that a lot of people miss. This is the parts below minimum. So if my shop was not wanting to run out of toilet paper, for example, and I had toilet paper in this list, I could very easily create a mark that if my toilet paper, using the big packages, there's 10 individual packages. Once I got down to the last package left in the stock room, it would show up in this report. So it's time to send somebody on a Sam's run. All right. And the way you do that is, so this is the parts below minimum. Now you notice over here, the only thing that is not on an invoice or on a purchase order right now is this one thing of thread locker. So I can click there and I can add thread locker. It says add to repair order. I don't want it on a repair order. I want it on a purchase order. I clicked the wrong thing. There we go. I clicked over here. I meant to click over here. So this is add to PO for parts below minimum. Okay, I'm going to mute this. Stand by. Got his voicemail again. This is live, folks. Ah, boy. All right. So we've created a purchase order. Our one tube of thread locker. And I'm not even sure which purchase order it's on. Might be this one. Because I have all these open purchase orders. Yeah, there it is. So according to this, I've used this 5 times and I've ran out. But the inventory here is not accurate. So I'm going to need to zero this out later if I'm keeping track of inventory. And that's the only thing is that if you're using the purchase order function, you really need to be keeping track of inventory. Because if not, then you have no idea what's getting low and what's not. So don't disregard the negative numbers there. So that's a purchase order. Now, one of the cool parts about, I say it's cool, it's software. It's nothing really to get excited about, but it does some really neat things. Is that right now, if I was to click submit to send this purchase order on to Worth, it's going to send it to our warehouse system called SAP. It's going to send it to SAP, and then it's also going to send an email to somebody in customer service. And the customer service folks are going to then process whatever it is we're ordering. So, for example, this hood insulator clip from Nissan is going to send 25 to them. This is a live shop. I don't want to do that to my friends. That call there was about my extended warranty. All right, cool. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about a little bit is this is the parts screen. Inventory management parts, if you're really getting down into the weeds, 501-59247. This is I have a sheet of barcodes down here with me. This is a fastener here that the shop would be using. Cost on it are 12 cents a piece. They're selling them at 24 cents a piece. Now, there's a big question all the time that comes up, is that this is the Worth part number. If I want to, I can go to and then I can pull it up. Worth USA's website is crazy cool. They do a fine job with it. So here's my part. If I want to look up the description, I want to do whatever else. One of these days, we're going to get to the point where we can actually start linking the parts information in there. That if you're in the SIS program, you click on the part number, it'll bring you to this web page exactly. You can order it from here if you want. But if you're going to use the Worth USA ordering channel, then you'll need to make sure that you have an account set up. You can click there, click register on it. And this is a great way of doing e-commerce. But SIS is already e-commerce. Except that with this e-commerce is that it's going to be ordering at your price. It's going to already have minimum pack size set up. The only thing it doesn't do right now is it doesn't send you a confirmation that it was processed correctly. So that's something that we're working on in the future if there is a demand for it. There's a lot of other projects we have in the works right now, and the purchase order side of this will be something that we will come back to and make sure that's the way it is, the way it should be working. But can't wait to start talking about some of the new stuff we got coming down the pike. Some projects that have been on the drawing board for a lot of years. And all right, let's take a look at this. This is Advanced Markup Manager. So I'm kind of going through a lot of information here. Not expecting you to remember any of it. The program, like I said, in its initial setup is all about just you setting up the initial information and start charging stuff out. Start creating those receipts for stuff historically body shops give away. It was one time I was in a shop, and the shop manager looked at me and looked at the rep, and the rep was saying, like, hey, here's Dave. Here's our guy that comes in and talks about the barcode scanners and in the program. And here's all, he said, okay, you have exactly 2 minutes. And so I kind of grinned at him. Okay, here's my elevator pitch. Here's the opportunity that I have to talk about this program in the shortest period as possible. I said, all right, this is the program that's going to allow you to create receipts for all the stuff historically body shops give away. It's all for the nuts, the bolts, the clips, the fasteners, chemicals, anything that holds Humpty Dumpty together. How much time do I have left? He kind of grinned at me a little bit. Said, all right, Dave, you kept to your promise, told me what it was, how it does. Now show me how it works. I think by the time we got done with that conversation, it was 45 minutes into it, and the guy was ready, just like, man, this is awesome. We need to start making money on stuff. And that's what this program does. It allows you to create receipts, and those receipts are going to be what gets collision centers mostly. Now, it can be used for other things, and we'll talk about that in other episodes. But for the most part, this program is designed to create those receipts for collision centers. And with those collision centers, then they can start turning those shop supplies into a profit center, which is really what the whole point is. All right, let's move on to Advanced Markup Manager. Now, this is a little feature that was added in because nobody likes going through the inventory management parts screen one by one to change the markup on items. The developers, if you watch season 2, one of the last videos I did, I started talking about the Advanced Markup Manager, and I made a mistake, and I didn't really read it because it says right here, it's the part prefix and the part postfix. So this field here, I'm not really sure how you're going to use that. I'm going to keep the list short. So I want everything beginning with this number to show up in a list. I have 5 pages right now. If I wanted to change the markup on these 10, click there. Change my markup to 125 and apply. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go through each one of those, and it's going to change the markup. Excuse me. It's going to go through each one of those and change the markup to 125%. So the 55500 cost is 56 cents. We're going to sell it at $1.26 because it now has 125% markup. This is how you go through. I wouldn't necessarily do clips and fasteners this way, but you can go through and change things like your chemicals. So So 0890. So it would be easier to go through these. I'm going to change these to 94%. So this enamel paint, cost on it $7.99. I'm selling it for $15. $15.50. And that's how the Advanced Markup Manager works. We'll try this guy back one more time. Stand by. Got his voicemail again. Okay. All right. So that's the program in a nutshell. Now, I don't want to necessarily go through make this entire hour video long of just talking about this, that, and the other, but I want to really kind of change gears. And I'm mainly speaking towards the sales reps right now. If you're a worth sales professional, sorry about that. So if you're a worth sales professional, I highly recommend getting subscriptions to magazines like this. This is ABRN. And ABRN and Body Shop Business Magazine are fantastic. They are the collision center's pulse. They really go into a lot of information about everything from, blending times to sourcing products, what's the future, what's the, where we're going in this industry. And as a salesperson for Worth or any other company for that matter, it's always good to know where the industry is going. And so I pulled off a couple of articles here, and I was wanting to talk about a little bit. And I want to really hear back from y'all, because the articles that I selected here was one is this is an article from on June 3rd in Body Shop Business Magazine called Survival Strategies for Independent Auto Body Shops. There is a trend right now in the collision industry that a lot of shops are going a couple of different ways, especially the independent ones. There's an old saying that if you're not growing, you're dying. And that has a lot to be said for the market. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a clothing store, a grocery store, or a collision shop. We're in the industry where bad things happen to people. And while I don't celebrate and I don't enjoy driving up on an accident that I'm, going down the highway, I don't enjoy seeing somebody's misfortune. There are times, let's take something that's nobody's fault. A hailstorm comes along and I have a car that gets dented up pretty good because of hail. It's nobody's fault. It's something that happened. While I do not enjoy people's misfortune, I am in an industry where we supply the pieces and parts to help shops rectify the misfortune. And this Body Shop Business article brought up some very good points. And there's an example here of a shop owner that's their sales. But there's a process involved. And a lot of times body shops, and I've been around for a while in this industry, and the way the here in the South we call it the good old boy network. The good old boy network is, it's like, yep, I can fix that car for $6,000. You haven't even looked at it. You're just looking out the window and you're telling me you can fix it for that much. You don't even know, have you written an estimate yet? I mean, will the insurance company accept it? If this is coming out of my pocket, $6,000, is that good or bad? I don't know. I don't know what that is. So those days have kind of come and went. And the days of just ballparking it has been replaced with very accurate estimating processes. And if you're not doing the accurate estimating processes, you're probably missing out on what could be made profit-wise. If you're not applying the processes of estimating correctly, then there's going to be missed billing opportunities. And those billing opportunities can turn into extra lines of profit. And that's where SIS kind of fits into this whole thing. I didn't pick this article just for that, but I was also talking about the big trend right now is that in the United States, there's roughly 40,000 body shops. And that number has not gone up or gone down. It's been right at that 40,000 for a lot of years. But yet, companies like Caliber, Gerber, say there's Service King is another one. And, these are the big three. Joe Hudson is beginning to show up on the radar. They're relatively new. And what they are doing is they're going after these collision centers. And I don't want to say they're going after. They're giving them an opportunity to get out. Because it is cheaper for a Joe Hudson to come up to an independent body shop that has already got 10, 15 years of established business under their belt. They've already gone through the process of getting the correct permits and everything else to do business in that town or that city. And they just buy them out or give them the opportunity to stay on, give them, it's like, okay, we're going to fund your retirement here by buying out your shop to become one of these big chains. And locally here in where I live, there was a shop that became an Abra, and then it became a Caliber because of different acquisitions. As far as I know, the shop is still doing quality work. It's not my buddy Monty, so I don't know what his plans are. But Monty is my guy, and that's who will always work on my cars until he either retires and closes his doors, or if he sells out to one of these big conglomerates, then we'll see. But I trust, he's earned my trust over the years, and a lot of shops are like that. And that's what this article was talking about, is that you're really kind of stuck with either selling to one of these consolidators or fighting them and trying to maintain the business. And you got to think about it, that what are some ways that you as the independent body shop can try to survive the big marketing push of the consolidators? And I find that an interesting conversation, because the big consolidators have been, I'm trying to choose my words carefully here because I don't want to make it sound like they're good or bad or wrong or right or anything like that, because they're all doing business. But sometimes when you're dealing with a big group of collision centers like that, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And sometimes that leads to good decisions. Sometimes it leads to a lot of bad decisions, because you're too big to really maneuver the way you need to. Or they say one thing is like, hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And then unfortunately, that bigness comes into the room, and it's like, well, I've got to get it approved by my 17 different managers, and they all have different opinions on how this thing should work. So you're kind of left with a analysis to paralysis kind of mode, where a smaller body shop or a group of body shops, you'll see my interview with a shop up in Oregon. I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. But talking with her, and they have 4 locations, probably growing to a few more here in the next couple of years. But they're maintaining their small shop management style, but at the same time getting the big shop mobility or future thinking, might be a good way of putting it. But I want to hear from you. I mean, put it down in the comments down below about what you think. Where do you think this industry is going? Where do you think things are progressing to good or bad? I mean, is it a good thing that all these consolidators are buying up the smaller shops, or is it a bad thing? I know that if I was sitting there, I saw something on LinkedIn. It's like, if you could sell your business for 10 times what it's worth right now, would you sell? That would, coming from a small trucking family, if one of the big freight companies came to us and they said, hey, we want to buy Laymon Trucking, and we're going to give you 10 times what it's worth, plus 10 times more than what all of your rolling stock is worth, just to sell out to us. We would have taken that deal in a heartbeat. It's not that we didn't love being in the trucking industry, because we did. We absolutely love doing the business and love doing the work. But if there is somebody that wants it more than you, or wants the challenges that come with owning a business like that, it's a temptation, especially if the numbers are right. And in an environment where it is easier to buy an existing shop or an existing company than it is to try to set up and start from ground zero and build the customer base and build the management team and build the vendor partnerships and building all of that stuff from the ground zero with a brand new opening shop, that can be tough. That can be really tough. But like I said, want to hear from y'all. And yes, I did use the word y'all. I want to hear from y'all and see what you think, see what you know, see what we can do or do better. What we're going to do with this new format is this is going to be an every other week thing. I just noticed my camera is like way off to the one side there. There we go. That was kind of like hanging off of the edge on the margins. So I apologize if you've been seeing a lot more of my dirty desk than than I needed it to. But anyway, that's what we've got in mind here, is that, this is a new format. This is an hour of me talking, an hour of me trying to put a cohesive thought together and trying to be entertaining or somewhat entertaining in that process, and bringing it into some sort of a conclusion that makes sense for everybody. As always, I'm Dave Laymon with SIS Technical Support, my partner, Joe Castro. We're always reachable. The number that I gave out earlier is my cell phone. It is my company's cell phone, so feel free to give me a call there if you need it. My cell phone number is area code 865-310-4880. If you'd like to reach us on the toll-free line, that number is 1-800-864-6561. And I'm going to end it just a couple of minutes early because we started here, but I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. When you've been doing it this long, you make the assumption that people know what you're going to talk about before you talk about it. And it's tough sometimes. It's tough to come into a room and talk about a program that you've been supporting for 20 years and assume that everybody you're talking to knows exactly what you're talking about. In reality, they don't. They're relatively new to it. They may have an idea of what the process is, but if they don't understand that this program is much more than just logging into a website and just automatically thinking that it's going to produce the receipts without having to do any kind of real work, well, yeah, it's actually, it takes a little bit more than that to get those numbers to work the way you want. But as always, I'm Dave Laymon. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to you. This will be back in 2 weeks. I don't have the date right there, but I will be announcing it here in 2 weeks as well. Appreciate your time. Hope you all stay safe. This is me fumbling, trying to get to my transition screen. Appreciate your time. Have a great week, guys. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon. Be safe.